It is without a doubt that all of us can come to the consensus that Robert Frost is one of the greatest American poets to ever live. Born in 1874 and living a long life marked by numerous awards such as Pulitzer Prizes, honorary degrees from schools such as Dartmouth and Princeton, teaching in Massachusetts and Vermont, along with global travels, poetry was a crown jewel of his legacy. Having written quite a few poems throughout his lifetime, Frost's poems helped us all to visualize the values of his home in New England that go back to the early days of the Puritans, such as work ethic, as well as exploring various topics of life such as self-discovery and making choices, often with somewhat dark undertones. In addition, these poems were all quite simplistic, making them all the more popular. He passed away in 1963, but now with Giving the World so many valuable poems that are still read to this day. In his most famous poem, The Road Not Taken, Frost cleverly conveys his messages about important life lessons. In this case, the idea of learning to challenge oneself in individualism. And he does so through the view of a traveler choosing between two roads to travel, with both roads leading paths leading to the same destination. But before we do go into like the itty bitty teeny tiny details of this poem, I must recite it. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in me undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps a better claim, because of grassy and wanted wear, though as for the passing there, had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, and leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less trouble by, and that has made all the difference. After reading the poem, I have arrived at the following conclusions. First, this poem was a very short poem, only 25 lines long and divided up in four stanzas. Second, this poem is essentially an extended metaphor about the choices humans will have to make in our lives and challenging oneself. Frost goes about this by first putting the reader in a situation where there are two paths to take in an autumn forest, and that only one path can be taken, as shown with the second line of the first stanza. I'm sorry I could not travel both, which is similar to the fact that humans often face situations where they can only choose one out of two or more options, such as deciding whether to spend a Saturday afternoon playing video games or going to the gym and working out. This is also conveyed through describing the two paths in contrasting ways. One has a lot of tread on it as it is heavily traveled, as seen in line 5 where it is described as to where it bent in the undergrowth, while the other is not of travel, described in the subsequent line as grassy and wanting wear. The first path is a metaphor for going the easy route in life, or as everyone knows, of not challenging oneself. And the second path is a metaphor for challenging oneself, although it is not officially conveyed in the poem. Similarly, challenging oneself can be seen as a road less traveled because not many people are willing to take up such challenges. Also, Frost conveys a message that through the ambiguous nature of the poem as the paths, when the reader decides to travel, are both covered in leaves, so as it is very difficult to tell which path is which. As the traveler admits in the second half of the poem, after traveling the path less taken, and only knowing this from what is described earlier in the poem, thus setting up a confusing dilemma that the traveler/reader finds themselves in. Also, Frost does this by setting the path so that the traveler, if they choose one path, they will not be able to travel the other, and thus they will not know what the other path is like. Furthermore, this poem also serves to reflect the very nature of humans oftentimes struggling with just making basic choices. Going back to the second line where it is said, and sorry I could not travel both, the fact that the traveler is sorry shows that they are unsure and have issues with deciding what to do. A common theme in many people's lives, thus serving to reinforce the difficulty of choosing a path for the traveler. Lastly, it is important to note that while this is a primary meaning of a poem after doing some analysis, it can be said that the poem carries other meanings as well, such as also serving as a symbol of individualism. As a path with less wear can serve to be a metaphor for choosing to be yourself, rather than following the lead of a group. Going off of this, it can also be noted that the traveler, just like many of us at the beginning of our lives, is unsure of who we are and what our role in the world is meant to be, and with the vague nature of a road not taken, sets up an environment that humans often find themselves in. In addition, the two paths also serve as a metaphor for popularity, especially considering popularity can often destroy unique personalities in individuals, as individuals more often than not opt to become what their followers want them to become. Both paths are described as just as fair, which means they are both identical. However, as pointed out in the subsequent stanza, that the difference between the two paths is the amount of grass, which is comparable to the amount of popularity. This in turn implies that too much popularity can become a bad thing, as over time the first path lost the same charm the second path had. And just like as is the case with a lot of social media influencers, their clout eventually gets them in them and changes, and more often than not, has negative effects on their mental and physical well-being, as well as changing them for more often than not for the worst. Going off both of these interpretations, it can be noted that the traveler's final destination is not specified anywhere in the poem, which is similar to how many of us have zero clue about what will happen to us in the end, which in turn further emphasizes the very factors that make our lives difficult.
So, in conclusion, Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken, serves as a message to us about the very nature of challenging oneself and the nature of making decisions, along with being an important lesson about individualism, as seen by how the poem is an extended metaphor for the choices we make, along with being compared to various situations that humans often find themselves in, such as significant life choices, like getting married, or for the individualism aspect of how to fit in and standing out. Frost also cleverly portrays the traveler as one who struggles to choose, which also gets at a relatable aspect of all people's lives, along with having the nature of a poem be ambiguous and very vague, which is a common aspect of a lot of the choices humans make. This, combined with the very simplistic nature of the poem, being only 25 lines long, divided up into four stanzas, helps the traveler to have an even more clear idea that helps the reader to have an even more clear idea of the dilemma that the traveler, and similarly many people find themselves in. Thus, Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken, is very significant because it is a very important lesson about the very nature of of human decision making, along with the very nature of the fact that all humans alike struggle with making choices, and important, and just as importantly, individualism. Thank you.